unfold. You know that feeling, right? That deep, kind of unsettling vibe you get from something that's almost human, but not quite? Well, today, we are going to solve the evolutionary mystery behind that feeling. We're diving into the Uncanny Valley. I mean, you've felt it. That little shiver you get from a glitchy AI-generated video, or a wax figure that looks just a little too real, or an android with those dead eyes. It's not just that you don't like it, it's a deep, primal feeling that something is fundamentally wrong. So, where on earth does that come from? Okay, so back in 1970, a roboticist named Masahiro Mori actually gave this feeling a name, the Uncanny Valley. And the idea is pretty simple. As a robot or an animation looks more and more human, we tend to like it more. But then something weird happens. Just as it gets super close to looking perfectly real, our feelings suddenly nosedive into this valley of revulsion and fear. It's only when it becomes totally 100% indistinguishable from a human that our empathy comes back. The real question is, why is that terrifying valley even there? To figure this out, we have to flip the whole question on its head. That creepy feeling isn't some kind of bug in our brain. It's a feature. It's a high-stakes survival instinct, an ancient alarm system that's been hardwired into us for a very, very long time.
Think about what that feeling actually is. It's this very specific cocktail of emotions, right? It's the revulsion of disgust, the alert signal of fear, and the sheer confusion of cognitive dissonance. That's the mental glitch you feel when something just doesn't compute. This isn't a flaw. It's an evolutionary feature, designed ages ago to warn us about dangers that looked almost like us, but weren't.
So, let's start our investigation with the first major clue. What if the Uncanny Valley is our first line of defense against an ancient, invisible killer, disease?
We all know about our regular immune system, the one that fights off germs once they're already inside us. But it turns out we also have a behavioral immune system. This is a set of deep-seated psychological instincts that use the emotion of disgust to make us steer clear of things that could make us sick. From an evolutionary standpoint, it is way, way better to accidentally avoid a perfectly healthy person who just looks a little strange than it is to risk getting close to a sick one and, dying.
And this is where it gets absolutely fascinating. Look at how perfectly our modern uncanny triggers line up with ancient symptoms of disease. That weirdly waxy, plastic skin you see in early CGI, to your ancient brain, that looks a whole lot like leprosy. The jerky, glitchy movements of a robot, that's a dead ringer for the spasms of something like rabies. Those dead eyes on an android, that's a classic sign of severe neurological trauma or a coma. Your brain is literally running ancient diagnostic software on 21st century technology.
In fact, if you think about the ultimate uncanny creature, the zombie, it's almost a perfect blueprint for the symptoms of rabies. A person with rabies is still recognizable, they're still Ken, but they're transformed into this aggressive, shambling monster with a horrifying, fixed grimace. The uncanny instinct just screams at you, override your empathy, forget that they look like you, and get away. But, avoiding the sick is only one piece of this puzzle. Let's move on to our second clue, which takes us from the fear of disease to the massive existential dread of death itself.
A corpse might just be the most uncanny object in existence. It looks perfectly human, right down to the last detail, but it violates our most basic understanding of what a person is. Mori, the guy who named the valley, talked about this exact horror when he shook a realistic prosthetic hand that looked real but felt cold, heavy, and lifeless. That mismatch between what your eyes see and what your other senses feel creates this huge error message in your brain.
So why such an intense reaction? Well, this revulsion is actually a really powerful psychological defense. There's this idea called terror management theory, which basically argues that a lot of what we do is driven by an instinct to avoid thinking about our own mortality. The uncanny feeling of a corpse creates an emotional wall. It forces you to categorize it as other, as not me, which protects you from the terrifying thought that one day you will also be a cold, inanimate object. That feeling is there to protect your sanity.
Okay, this brings us to our third and, honestly, most provocative clue. What if the Uncanny Valley is an echo, a ghost from a time when we weren't the only species of human walking the Earth? Just think about this timeline for a second. For hundreds of thousands of years, our ancestors, Homo sapiens, shared this planet with other intelligent human species, like the Neanderthals and the Denisovans. These were not ape men.
These were parallel versions of humanity, our direct competitors for land, for food, for survival.
And this illustrates the point perfectly. When you look at reconstructions of a Neanderthal face, you see something that is maybe 90% human, but that last 10% is just wrong. Those subtle but absolutely crucial differences, that heavy brow, the wider nose, the lack of a strong chin, would have dropped them right into the deepest part of the uncanny valley for our ancestors.
So in that world, the uncanny feeling wasn't just a weird vibe. It was a life or death recognition system. It was an instant, gut-level alarm that told you if that figure walking over the hill was one of your own tribe or a dangerous rival. It was the original us versus them instinct, played out on a species-wide scale.
So, now we have three incredibly powerful clues: a defense against disease, a shield against the terror of death, and a system for spotting rival species. So, which one is it? Which one is the real source of the uncanny valley? The answer is all of them. They're not separate theories. They are one unified system.
This is the big reveal. The uncanny valley isn't just one instinct. It is a unified threat avoidance model. It's the one single point where all three of these ancient alarm systems, our fear of sickness, our awareness of death, and our instinct to identify rivals, all start blaring at the exact same time.
So what's actually happening in your head? The mechanism is called categorical ambiguity. So your brain is basically a prediction machine that loves putting things into neat little boxes. Is it live or dead? Is it human or not human? Is it friend or foe? An uncanny thing breaks all those boxes. It creates a massive prediction error, and your brain defaults to the safest possible response. Get away from that thing right now.
And this just explains so much about our modern world, doesn't it? When you see one of those AI-generated videos where a person's hands just sort of merge into their food, you're not just seeing bad code. Your ancient behavioral immune system is interpreting that as a sign of a catastrophic biological breakdown, like rapid necrosis or some horrifying mutation that you need to avoid at all costs.
So the next time a CGI character gives you the absolute creeps, remember this: your brain isn't seeing bad animation. It's seeing the ghost of a rabid ancestor, a long-dead corpse, and a rival human species all rolled into one terrifying package. It's a feature, not a flaw.
And that leaves us with one final, pretty heavy question. As our technology gets better and better, and our androids and our AI creations get closer and closer to crossing that valley, are we really prepared to come face to face with the ancient ghosts that we are, without even realizing it, programming them to become?